Hey everyone, I am Stefan from mywoodcutters.com. Welcome back to our little YouTube channel here with Clean Armor wood finishing products. It has been quite a journey ever since we started offering these products back in early 2024. Right now we have January of 2025, just in case you watch this video in 10 years from now on and wondering when this was all recorded and so on. Anyhow, yeah, we have received tons and tons of questions from our customers, and we have on our website already a dedicated page with frequently asked questions. And I would like to actually dive in here and answer some of these questions a little bit more in detail, show a little bit hands-on, and hope to clarify a few things. One of the most common things is self-leveling issues and with hand application and so on and so forth. When you have watched some of my previous videos, you may know that I always prefer actually spray application, and in actual fact in my entire career as a woodworker I always used spray application, and hand application was new to me when I started dealing with Clean Armor, and also only for the purpose of learning it so I can show you guys. And but I still, you know, when I built my workbench, my cabinets here and everything else, I grabbed to the spray gun. So anyways, in this video I would like to address that particular topic, hand application, what is the best method. We have learned about a new method, and that is quite incredible, that I would like to share with you. And also one of the most common questions is the misunderstanding of the different products. And I have here the 750 sealer along with the 757 tabletop finish, and then the 710 sealer along with the 700 finish. Both finishes are here in satin for a better comparison, both the same sheen level. So I want to finish these two pieces of walnut, one with the 757, the other with the 700, show you the application again, and then also show you really what is the difference in between these two products. Okay, so I'm going to prepare my workbench a little now. I have to put a little piece of cardboard below just in case I'm spilling and whatnot, so I don't want to mess up my top. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm prepared now for finishing this piece of walnut with the 710 sealer and the 700 in satin. And I mentioned a new way for application. And this may sound a little weird at first, but it works fantastic. You're using what is called here a do-it-yourself edge. This is basically a paint applicator. I have one here out of the package to show a little bit closer. That is simply a plastic pad, right? And it has like short bristles here, so like 1/8 of an inch or so. And the interesting part of this now is we're going to cover it with pantyhose. So I just took a piece of pantyhose and cut off a piece of the leg and simply wrapped it around, and then it looks like this. Okay, and it really works amazing. I just did a few test projects for that after I heard about this. This is not my invention. The inventor of Clean Armor, Matthew Springer, actually told me all about it, and told me also that this was actually suggested by one of his customers. I don't know who that is, but if that person is watching this, thank you very much. I think that works wonderful and may help many of our customers to solve their problems with applying Clean Armor. Okay, let's get started. Whenever hand application, I always wear my gloves. The chemical itself, Clean Armor, if you get it on your skin, it doesn't burn, you don't feel it or anything. But when you cure it on your skin, it's really hard to get it off. Plus, it gets a little bit warm, sometimes even hot, depending how far you're away with the light. Let's get started. So always agitate the bottle And I already have shaken this before I started recording this video. So in all reality, a little bit more than what you've seen me doing now. And yeah, so I just apply here a little bit. And oh my goodness, I have to cut at this point. Sorry, I had to cut the video here because I didn't want to use this new applicator that I just showed you. I had one that I previously used that I want to use again with the 710 sealer. So all we have to do now is spread this. And remember, Clean Armor is 100% solids. There are no solvents being used here. Nothing evaporates. And for that reason, it is being applied very, very thin. So when you think of traditional finishes that have at best 30% solids and the remaining 70% are solvents that evaporate, and this is not the case here. So for that reason, 100% solids, you should really apply only a third of what you're used to compared with the traditional finishes. And that is actually talking about lacquer finishes, polyurethane, things like this, because other finishes like hard wax oils and so on are applied thinner anyways and then completely wiped off. So this is now, of course, in comparison to lacquers, polyurethane, things like this. Okay. So I have here rounded edges. That makes it a little bit more complicated with this straight pad, but it works still wonderfully. Okay. So after we have applied this, we are going to let this sit for like 2 to 3 minutes, simply to let it soak into the wood. And after that, we are evening it out again with the same applicator before we cure it with the UV light. I'm going to cut the video here. I'm not going to let you stare for 3 minutes into the nothingness. Yeah, I'll be right back and back. Okay, I have let this sit now for like 3 minutes to let it soak in. I see here a bunch of tiny air bubbles, and that is absolute normal. As Clean Armor soaks into the wood, it basically replaces the air in the wood pores, and so air comes up, and that is why we don't cure it right away, and that's what was the reason why we let it sit first, and then wipe over it again to eliminate most of the air bubbles before we actually cure it. Okay, I'm going to use the same applicator that is still wet from my first application, and I'm wiping over it again. And also now one thing comes to my mind. I see here it's starting to pull some strings from the pantyhose behind itself. Not a big deal, but I have always told in my previous videos I like to apply 2 coats of sealer without sanding in between, before I then give it a 320 grit sanding, and then apply the top coat, the 700 top coat. In this case, I think I will have to sand it in between the 2 sealer coats, simply because I fear that the wood fibers that are standing up will basically wreck this thing when I wipe over it again with my second coat. So that's why I want to quickly sand it then in between and then apply it again. Okay, I will have to bring this tool into security, and remember, you don't need to clean any of your tools You just take a Ziploc bag, mark it, and put your tool in there, in this case this applicator, and store it in a dark place where it cannot see any of the UV light, and then you can pick it up months later and continue using it, because it simply will not harden or cure. Okay, bottle is closed, yes, so I can use my UV light now and cure this. And I'm not going to let you watch here 2.5 minutes or so for me to let this cure. I'm going to cut the video. I will be back after this is cured, and I will, as I said, give it a quick sanding with 320 grit, and then we'll be back. Okay, so here we are back, and I cured it and I sanded it 320 grit, very gentle, just to get rid of all the wood fibers that are standing up, you know, after they get wet. And so let's carry on. I give it another coat and always shake the bottle a little bit, even if you shook it the last time a few minutes ago. Better safe than sorry. So with the second coat, we have to consider that the wood fibers are already sealed. Nothing will soak in anymore, so very little, as you can see, what I poured on is really very little, because we want to apply the recommended thickness of the coat is like 1 mil, that equals like 1/1000th of an inch. And you can get gauges to measure your thickness. It's like a little comb. Unfortunately, I don't have one to show. It's like a comb that you just go through, and it will tell you what the thickness of your coat is. And yeah, and also, by the way, as I've always been telling, I'm doing 2 coats of the 710 sealer and then only 1 coat of the top finish, the 700. This is simply a preference. This is not a must. I know other people apply only 1 coat of sealer and then 2 coats of the 700 top finish. And you may get slightly different results, I would expect. And I will dedicate that subject into another video. So let's continue on this one now. Oh. Yeah, so you see that little drop that I put on there is plenty enough. I'm just trying to even it out a bit more, because it appears I have on that side over there a little bit thicker of a coat than on this side. This applicator works really wonderfully. Okay, so here I'm going to cut the video again, because I'm going to let that sit again for like 2 minutes to self-level a little bit, and if there are any pores still open, to let it soak in. And then we are going to wipe it over again before we cure it. Okay, I'll cut here again. I'll see you in 2-3 minutes. Okay, so I have let this sit now for like 3 minutes, and actually I like what I see. This is pretty much ready to cure anyways, but still I'm going to go over once again to even it out, eliminate any tiny air bubbles that may come up. Okay, and that is perfect. I'm going to bring my applicator into safety, into the back again, I also had a microfiber cloth handy here, just in case, but I didn't need it. So put that back in the drawer where it doesn't see the UV light, and here we go with the curing of the 710 sealer. And again, I'm going to cut the video right here, and after this is cured, I'll give this another quick sanding with 320, and then I'll be back for more. Yeah, and while I'm in the middle of sanding this, by the way, I've also off camera now finished. That is the other side. The first side that we did is already done. But anyways, what I would like to show here now is, like, you can see how the sealer has filled most of the wood grain, the pores of the wood. You still see a little bit of deeper grains that has not sanded. And so if you really want to go into a polish finish in the end, that is where the 730 grain filler comes in. So instead of the 710 sealer, you would use the 730 grain filler, and after you're sanding that, you're supposed to get a absolutely nice flat surface with all the grain filled. Okay, I'll continue sanding this off, and then we'll finish it off with the 700. Okay, so here we are back and ready to apply the final top coat with the wood 700 and in satin. I sanded it off both sides and dedusted it, and what I find works best is basically, so these are two paint brushes, and this is just a normal air nozzle to blow off, right? So simply cut down the bristles a little shorter on these air brushes. First glued them onto the nozzle with some crazy glue, or second glue, what's it, PA glue or so. Then wrapped it with some electrician's tape and then filled it in with epoxy. That's what you see here in between. Works fantastic. So with the air hose attached, of course, you kind of blow it off and wipe the dust off at the same time. Works absolutely amazing. Okay, so with the sheen levels, well, actually with any product, regardless of the sheen levels, you have to shake the bottle first before you use it. But when it comes to the sheen levels, satin and matte, you have to shake it even more so, because all the Clean Armor products like the 700, it's all basically the same product based on a gloss sheen level, and they are adding matting agents in there, right, to make the satin sheen and the matte. And these matting agents, they can of course settle down in the bottle. And we have had a few complaints from customers saying, my satin or even the matte, it appears like gloss. Well, did you shake your bottle? Oh, nobody told me. That's what we heard then. But it says here, shake well or stir well before you use it, right? So, and it's actually common sense. I don't know any kind of paint or finish that doesn't need to be stirred or shaken before usage. I have already shaken this like crazy before I started recording, so I'm ready to go now. And remember, very thin layer, like 1 mil, so we don't really need much. Just like that, just a little drop here in the center, that's all it is. And in my case, I have to admit, I have used this pad before. This is, by the way, of course, a different one than what I used with the sealer. It has to be always the same, so that's why I label my Ziploc bags. Okay, so let's spread this out. And this is just so amazing how this applicator works. I have used before microfiber, which works fairly well. I like that too, but this actually makes it so much easier. And as I said, in between, I have finished this board on both sides now. And I did the edges when I did the other side as well. So that means the edges have received now 4 layers of the sealer, and that has the additional advance that the end grain here is absolutely perfectly sealed now and waterproof. And I finished this one on both sides because I want to use this board for some further testing in another video later on about all the things that Clean Armor can handle that other finishes cannot. Okay, so here again we let that sit for a couple to 3 minutes before we cure it, and so I'm going to cut the video here again and I'll be right back. Okay, this already looks very nice. I'm still going to wipe over here one more time to level it out and then let it sit again for a minute or so, just to eliminate the remaining small streaks, you know, with self-leveling of the product. And this is one of the key features with Clean Armor. You are curing on demand. This product will not cure on its own. It will not dry. Nothing evaporates. So you can spend here as long as you wish to even out the surface to get it as perfect as you like or as you need, and cure it on demand when you like what you see. So that is the golden rule with Clean Armor. Don't ever cure something that you don't like and hope that it will get perfect by itself somehow while you're curing it. That's not the case. As soon as you turn the UV light on, it will freeze in place what you see. In this case, with the sheen level satin, while you're curing it, it will suddenly turn into a satin finish, while right now, while it's wet, still looks glossy. So when you have the sheen level gloss, oops, there's a little hair here. When you have the sheen level gloss, it will barely not even change. You cannot tell the difference in between wet and cured. That little hair is bugging me. Okay, now I have to go over again because I left here a little mark at the edge when I tried to get rid of that hair. So, but I hope the camera can pick that up, how nicely this applies. When I look against the light, I still see a little tiny bit of like brush strokes, because as I showed before, or I can show you again, this applicator has like mini brush bristles, like an 1/8 of an inch, right? And that transfers of course through the pantyhose, which only helps to level it out even better. I do like what I see pretty much now, and that means I will bring my applicator into safety in my dedicated Ziploc bag labeled as the 700 satin. Put it in one of my drawers here and be out of range. Make sure the bottle is completely closed before we turn on the UV light. And I'm not going to let you watch all this while I'm curing it. I will show you the result afterwards, and then we move right on and finish the other board with the 757 finish. Okay, there you have it. So this board is finished. I'm going now to prepare for the other one to finish with the 757, and afterwards we compare and talk about really what are the differences in between the 700 and the 757. One other thing I wanted to point out, because it was also not a frequently asked question, but still came up a few times. Customers asking, when you're finishing a board like this, including the edges, how do you prevent the underside getting any runoffs and so on, right? And while I was finishing before with microfiber glass, I did have that issue indeed, here and there. With this applicator, I just have nothing to complain about here in this case. But still, what I wanted to say in that respect is clean armor differentiates itself by the way it's curing, right? But other than that, before it's cured, it's still a liquid and it behaves like a liquid, like any other finish. So whatever you do to prevent the runoffs on the bottom while this side is curing, it would be the same as what you would do with any other finish. So you can tape it off before and turn it around before you finish the other side, or you have to make sure before you cure it that you lift it up and then wipe gently the bottom off or whatever. As I said many times before, I prefer spray application, and I never have an issue like that because you just apply only a very gentle mist of finish on the edges, and I've never any problems with runners and so on. Here I do have one in the very corner here. I don't know if the camera can pick that up there. So, but other than that, okay. Yeah, I'm very pleased with this. Oops, there's some dust imprints now from my benchtop cookies. But yeah, so I'm going to prepare now for the other one, and then we do the 757. Okay, so here we go now and finish this other piece of walnut. I like this side better. With the 757 tabletop finish. Now, before I start, I wanted to talk a little bit about this finish. Don't let the name of it, tabletop finish, confuse you. You can use this for any wood finishing purposes, and you can equally use the 700 for any tabletops. So this is not dedicated to tabletops. I'm not sure what the story is behind the name. But yeah, the difference really is this is what we call an open grain finish. The 757 cannot be applied by spray application, at least it should not be applied. You will not get satisfactory results. It's only for hand application, and there is also some, it's really made for industrial use. There is an industrial machines that apply it not by spray, but still through mass production, big machines that I'm not sure how that really works. But anyways, the 757 is a strict 2-coat application only, where the first coat should be applied with the 750 sealer. Okay, so 1 coat of the sealer, 1 coat of the finish. And again, you'll see that when we're done, this will provide an open grain feature. An open grain finish. And yeah, so let's get started. I already shook my bottles before I started recording, but give it another quick shake. And this one now we also need to apply very sparingly. Except in this case, I use here brand new applicators. They have not been used before, so they will soak up a part of it. So I may have to add a little bit more, but I want to make sure I get everything wet. Now, as I said before, with the 700 finish, make sure you apply it only a third as thick as you are used to with lacquers and polyurethane and so on. However, here it's like if you are experienced finisher with hard wax oil finishes and so on, then you're used to, oops, that was maybe a little much. Then you're used to wiping it on, let it sit, and then you use a dry cloth to wipe it off again, right? And then you use another dry cloth to wipe it off again until you cannot pick up anymore and you are only left with what has soaked into the wood. Now, some of our customers have tried that method apparently with this finish, and of course they don't get good results because that's not what you do here. We still need here 1 mil thickness of coat, so don't wipe it off. If you wipe it off completely, especially then with a dry cloth, then you may have issues with curing. If it's too thin, it will not properly cure and still appear to be wet. So That is the main difference. So don't wipe it off. Here again, after we wipe it on, we will let it sit for a couple of minutes or so to soak into the wood, and then we wipe over it again. Okay, that is good for now. I will cut the video here, let this sit for 2 minutes, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I let this sit here for a couple of minutes, and now we use the same still wet applicator to simply wipe over again to even it out. And again, we are not wiping it off. That would defeat the purpose of it. So yes, compared to a hard wax oil, as I said, you are more or less left with only the finish that has soaked into the wood, but no film over the wood. That's not the case here. This one leaves the film over the wood, a protective film that makes it completely resistant mechanically, for starters. It's very scratch resistant. It's totally waterproof and also chemical proof. You can pour acetone, lacquer thinner, even the harshest paint strippers over it, and it will not touch it. But more to that subject later in a dedicated video. Okay, I'm ready for curing it. Well, first I have to, of course, put my applicator into safety with my Ziploc bag that is labeled for it already. Okay, I'll cut the video right here, and after that, oh no, I have to add with the 750 sealer, before applying the 757, of course we are going to give it a sanding in between coats, but since this is an open grain finish, I would prefer to leave this baby away, and we are doing it just by hand, very gentle, with a little hand sander, you know, and we sand it with the grain. Okay, I don't think I need to show that in the video, but that's all I'm going to do in between. So now I'm going to cure it with our Kubo light, and I'll be back when I'm done. Okay, so here we go. I sanded this by hand with this little guy. Very gentle sanding in direction of the grain, of course. And so, yeah, again, this is an open grain finish, and that's why I don't want to go on with the machine and sand actually through the sealer into the grain and level it more out. We still want to see an open grain in the end. I'll show that when we are done with this. So let's get started. Again, 757, we're doing satin, and always remember to shake your bottle. Now, I did shake it already before I started recording. And again, we want to apply very little, except in this case again, my applicator here is new. It will soak up quite a bit. So that's why I need, with the very first time, a little bit more. And now we're just wiping it on and even it out. And as I said before, you know, clean armor, it does not dry or does not cure by evaporation or anything like this. You can do this for hours if you like, if you enjoy this, you know, just how nice you can wipe this on and see it leveling out. And you have to help a little bit with the leveling by very gentle strokes with this, so don't press too hard while you're applying it. Because again, we do not want to wipe it off. It's not a hard wax oil finish. So that is the major differences and the major problems that we have with some customers, you know, customers experienced with polyurethane or lacquer finishes. will have to learn to apply only a third of what they are used to, because clean armor is 100% solids with nothing to evaporate. And then we have our customers that are very experienced with hard wax oils, but again, here you're used to, apply it like this, and then you use a clean cloth to wipe everything off, and you're only left with what's soaked into the wood. And that is not the case here. So those users have to learn to not wipe it off. So again, I'm going to let this sit for a couple of minutes, then wipe over again with the same applicator that is still wet, just to level it out and even it out before we cure it. Okay, now I'm back after about a couple of minutes to let that sit here. So I'm going to wipe over it again. With fairly gentle pressure, just to even out the product over it. But again, we are definitely leaving a film over the wood to protect it, as mentioned before, and that you wouldn't achieve if you wipe it all the way off. And of course, some people may not like this, because they're used to the natural feel of wood, which I can appreciate too. But the problem with natural wood is, of course, you put water on a glass of water on a table or something, you get those typical watermark rings and so on. And yeah, everything has its pros and cons. Okay, I pretty much like what I see. So I'm going to put my applicator into safety. Oh no, I didn't have it back yet, but I prepared a new one. So I can cure this without curing my applicator, right? Put it in the bag, store it in a safe spot where it's safe from the UV light. Okay. I'm going to cure this now, and I'll be back when this is done. Okay, so there it is. I finished it now on both sides, and yeah, it turned out really nice. So this is the 757, and I will have to take the camera in the hand now and prepare and add the other board, put them next to each other so you can really see what the difference is in these two finishes. Okay, be right back. Okay, and here we go, and here are these two pieces side by side. The one finished with the Wood 700 and the Sealer 710, and the other one, the Tabletop Finish Wood 757, along with the Sealer 750. I want to take these bottles away because they're in the light a little bit. Now let's talk about the differences. Now both these finishes can be used on any wood projects, no question about it. Even though the one is called Tabletop Finish, you can use this finish on tabletops as well, if that's what you prefer, or you can use this on cabinet doors or whatever. So the 700 interior finish is in appearance more comparable with like lacquers, polyurethane finishes and so on. So you can see we have here a moderate grain fill effect, similar as with lacquers and polyurethanes and stuff like that. And with the 757, that's why it is called the open grain finish. I'm trying to get here the right angle to show this. I mean, you can see it bare naked eye so well. It's so hard to capture it sometimes on the camera. So this is more in appearance like a hard wax oil finish, but again, only in appearance. We did have a couple of customers before that complained a little bit about the fact it leaves a film over it and takes the feel of the wood away, and yes, that is the case, but it protects the wood, and that's the purpose. So may not be for everyone in that respect, but to me it's just the best finish in the world there is. I mean, the fact that it cures so quickly, and yeah. So there you have it. Again, I want to point out the 700 can be sprayed, and that is actually my preference, and that is why I am personally not very experienced with hand application. And if you look closely here, you still can see a little bit of marks from wiping, but a more experienced hand can get rid of that with a little bit of training very easily, I guess, even with hand applications. Yeah, open grain, and the other one non-open grain, so with a moderate grain filling effect. If you want to, you still see here, for example, there's still a little bit a low point in the grain. If you want to get rid of that completely, then you would simply replace the 710 sealer with the 730 grain filler. Now the grain filler cannot be wiped on like I showed here, because that stuff is a little bit thicker, more like honey, and you would need to use a squeegee to press it in and then sand it completely smooth, just like a piece of glass in the end. Okay, there you have it. Hope you learned a little bit, and I'll see you in one of the next videos, I hope.